Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, we shall be continuing our review of the 10th edition Imperial Guard Index, and this time we shall be looking at the Ogryn Bodyguard datasheet. But you know what? Just because I love you guys so much, we're going to make it a double bill bonanza, and we'll take a look at Nork Dead Dog as well. Oh, I know it's very exciting, isn't it? Well, you know what? Let's not mess around. Let's eat some potato skins, stomp the little uns flat, and dive right into today's video. As is tradition, we shall begin this whole thing with an overview of what the hell Ogryn Bodyguards even are. This is for people who might be new to 40k, getting in with 10th edition, but also for longbeards and veterans. Maybe you're a guard commander who's never really considered Ogryn Bodyguards before, or perhaps you are a long-time 40k player who's using 10th edition as an excuse to collect a new army. In the lore, Ogryn Bodyguards are particularly large and loyal examples of their kind. Every Ogryn is big and very dedicated to the Imperium, but bodyguards take this to an entirely new level. They enter a berserk fury whenever their charge is threatened, and they can shrug off wounds that would annihilate a regular soldier and might even put down a normal Ogryn. They will continue fighting until they are completely and utterly obliterated. Now, let's be clear here for a moment. Most guard officers value their lives, and unless you're in the Krieg, you're probably not going to be that enthusiastic about having your skin flayed off and turned into a lampshade for Dark Elder Succubus. So most guard officers go into battle with some form of bodyguard. Look at command squads, for example. But not everyone has access to Ogryn bodyguards. Maybe you just don't like them. Whilst they're very, very loyal and protective, they do come with all the downsides of being an Ogryn, which is very clumsy and very expensive to keep fed and watered. Or perhaps it's just classic Imperial, haughty arrogance and intolerance. Many officers just see Ogryns as stupid, simple brutes that are smelly and not worth keeping around, not like proper good soldiers of humanity. Well, unfortunately for those officers, many of them find out that your values, especially those bad ones, aren't going to save you from a Necron Gauze Flayer, and they kind of wish in their last moments they hadn't turned down the Munitorum's offer of an Ogryn bodyguard. At the end of the day, whilst having an Ogryn bodyguard on retainer presents a huge food bill and a particularly nasty hygiene problem for the officer in question, the protection they offer is second to none, and many guard commanders consider it well worth the price being paid. Who knows? Maybe if the Emperor had boarded Horus's battle barge with a few Ogryn bodyguard, things might have turned out a bit different. And with that rather surreal and insane idea filtering through all of our brains, let's see how all of this translates onto the tabletop. Now, in previous editions, specifically 9th edition, Ogryn bodyguards were actually pretty good. In fact, there was a whole tactic around it called the Dreadnought, and how you could make not one, but two, maybe even three unkillable command squads. I used this tactic many times in my competitive 9th edition career, and every single time it took people completely off guard. I've had entire blobs of custodian wardens charge into a command squad and bounce off. I've had entire units of 8-bound charge into these Ogryn bodyguard command squads and not do a wound. They were incredibly tanky and incredibly durable. But, and it is a big but, I am sad to say that those days are over. The line has ended. Unfortunately, it seems like GW didn't intend for Ogryn bodyguards to be quite as powerful as they were in 9th edition, and they have been toned down drastically going into 10th. I'm not saying that they're completely dead. After all, we do have narrative play for a reason, but I'm just going to preface this whole video by saying they ain't looking good. So, with a heavy heart, let's take a look at this unit, beginning with its stat line. Things start off all right. We've got half decent unit profile. 6-inch movement, toughness 6, 5+ save, not great, but we've got ways of improving that. Your brute shield can give you a 4+ invulnerable save. You've also got 6 wounds, unless you take a slab shield, which gives you 7 wounds. Oh, nice. Leadership 7 is whatever, objective control 1. So pretty chunky. You know, 4+ invulnerable save, T6, 6 wounds, that'll play, right? That'll work. Okay. Then we got onto the weapon options. Grenadier gauntlets, not great, not terrible. D6, strength 4 shots. Physical 4+ isn't ideal, but hey, if the ogre bodyguard's part of a command squad and then that command squad's part of a unit, they'll have take aim, so they hit on 3s. That's not too bad. And blast, that makes it suddenly half decent. We've got the Ripper gun as well. Whoa, good old Ripper gun. Sustained hits now, basically like a heavy bolter. Again, not going to do your nose up an extra heavy bolter in your unit, are you? But really, you're not too worried about the Ogren's shooting capabilities, although Ripper guns are good. It's about the melee. Look at those muscles, boys. It's about the melee, obviously. Now, you've got the classic Bulgrin Maul. 5 attacks, weapon skill 3+, can hit on a 2+ with fixed bayonets. And then you've got strength 7, AP -1, 2 damage. Or you go for the huge knife. Yeah, the huge knife. 6 attacks at weapon skill 3+, strength 7, AP -1, 2 damage. Weirdly, the huge knife is now better than the Bulgrin Maul. It used to be the other way around, that the huge knife was decent, but if you wanted to really bonk people on the head, you had to use the Bulgrin Maul, but they swapped that round now. Honestly, I'm not sure I see a reason for the Bulgrin Maul now. Maybe it's because you have to replace the huge knife with a shield, so you might want the Bulgrin Maul there. I don't know. For me, I'd probably just stick with that Ripper gun and huge knife. That seems like the best combo. You get the Daka and you get the chopper, and you've still got a decent amount of toughness and wounds to sit there and tank damage on. So on the surface, this all seems decent, right? He's fairly tough. He's got half decent shooting, and his close combat capabilities with that knife are definitely nothing to be sniffed at. The problems occur when we get to his abilities. Firstly, he has a feel no pain of a 6+, which might seem good, but in reality it's a total waste, because he's going to be part of a command squad, and inevitably that command squad is going to have a medic, because medics are one of the best things about command squads right now. And that medic is going to give the whole unit, including the guardsman, the command squad, and the Ogrin, a 6+ feel no pain. So his core ability is redundant. Next up, we've got Ogrin Bodyguard. Now, this is alright. While one or more officer models are in the same unit as this model, those officer models have a feel no pain 4+. Now, 4+ feel no pain is very, very tasty. Let's not beat around the bush here. It's very, very nice indeed. But there's a couple of issues with it. Firstly, it relies upon your opponent having precision, because it's only the officer that gets the 4+, not the rest of the unit, not the Ogrin himself. And that would be nice if there was an officer in the unit, then the Ogrin gets a 4+ feel no pain to make sure that he tanks all his wounds for the officer. Brilliant. But he doesn't. And if you come across an army that isn't using precision, this ability is a total waste. But if you do come across an army using precision, then it is kind of handy. The only issue is guard officers are very fragile. And I'm not actually certain that a 4+ feel no pain, as crazy as it sounds, is enough to save one. A volley of Space Marine Scout sniper rifles are going to fire at your unit, or maybe even a squad of Ratlings, we use that as an example. They're going to hit on 2s, because they hit on 3s heavy, hit on 2s, so they're going to hit with everything out of those 5 shots, and they're going to wound you 3 or 4 times. Now, they've got the AP to just cut straight through your armor save, so you go straight onto your feel no pain. Now 4+, if you take 3 sniper shots, saves 3 of those damage. But your platoon commander's only got 3 wounds, so he still dies. So my problem with the Feel No Pain is maybe it'll spike and your officer will be fine, but statistically, a volley of sniper shots still has a very good chance of taking your officer out, whether he's using the bodyguard or not. Now, we're going to come back to precision and stuff in just a moment, but before we do, let's wrap up the rest of the Ogryn bodyguard's abilities. We've got redoubled loyalty. While this model's unit contains an officer model that has lost 1 or more wounds, each time this model makes a melee attack, add 1 to the hit roll and 1 to the wound roll. That's okay. Interestingly, it does overlap with Deathcore of Krieg. Remember, if Deathcore have lost a model, then everyone in the unit does get +1 to hit. And if they're below half strength, then everyone in the unit gets +1 to hit and +1 wound. And that does pass on to things that are attached to their squad, like officers and like the Ogryn bodyguard. So there's a little bit of overlap there. But hey, maybe you're not using Krieg. Not everyone does. Some people love their Catachans, some people love their Cadians. But the big issue here is that it relies upon your officer having lost wounds. And as we kind of pointed out with the previous ability, if something can target your character, he's probably going to die. He's not going to be around. And if your character is dead, then you don't get redoubled loyalty, and Ogryn bodyguard becomes useless. And it really isn't that hard to kill a guard character, even with an Ogryn bodyguard in the unit. And that's the big problem, isn't it? Because your Ogryn bodyguard doesn't stop precision. Your opponent can absolutely target them with a volley of sniper rifles, or what about some sort of close combat precision weapon? That's going to slice through your officer in a heartbeat. And so you end up with a model which fundamentally cannot do its job. Look, you can make my Ogryn get angry when my officer's injured. You can give my officer a 4 Feel No Pain. It's not going to matter. It's a 3 wound character at toughness 3. Anything that could target him is going to blow him away in a heartbeat. Frankly, if I could get rid of Ogryn bodyguard and redoubled loyalty and trade it in for a rule that said, whilst an Ogryn bodyguard is in this unit, any precision attacks must target the bodyguard, I'd be okay with that. That would be fine. That would do a much better job. In fact, ironically, the main reason you take an Ogryn bodyguard has nothing to do with his ability to protect your officer and everything to do with the amount of smackdown he can deliver. Because he is actually pretty good in combat. If you were to take a big unit of guardsmen, maybe some Catachans, and you were to stack Strachan and a command squad with an Ogryn bodyguard in there, you have got one hell of a combat blob. Because don't forget, the Catachan's abilities bleed over to the Ogryn. So when they charge, he gets an extra strength and an extra AP. So suddenly he's putting out 6 strength 9, AP -2 damage to attacks, and he can still benefit from fixed bayonets, so we can go up to hitting on 2s as well. You take this guy to look after your platoon commander. You take this guy to beat the crap out of enemy units. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Mordian Glory, surely that toughness 6 would do great for absorbing loads of wounds for the squad. He's going to really be able to tank a lot of those small arms, right? Sadly not, because the Ogryn bodyguard is considered part of the command squad, and the command squad, when attached to a big platoon, is considered to be a leader. And when a leader is part of a big unit, you have to use the bodyguard units, and let's be clear here, we don't mean Ogryn bodyguard, we mean the big blob of infantry they've attached to. I know GW in their infinite wisdom decided to have a unit called bodyguard, and then have rule called bodyguard as well. Let's not get into that. Long story short, in case some of you are a bit confused, I know I am, your Ogryn bodyguard has to use the toughness of the squad he is attached to, which in this case will be a big blob of guardsmen. So that toughness 6 actually doesn't kick in until all of those guardsmen are dead. But hey, you can't have it all your own way, and at the end of the day, at least the Ogre Bodyguard has some kind of battlefield role. You can stick him in a blob of Catachans and create a Strack and Doom stack. That's something, right? Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Nork Dead Dog. They massacred him. Look how they massacred my boy. Now, for those of you that don't know, Nork is a special character in the Guard, and he is beloved by the community. He's been around forever. I think we've had him since the 3rd edition Codex, but it might even be earlier than that. And his lore is a total meme. Apart from just being a very loyal and very intelligent Ogryn, he's also one of the most highly decorated people in the Imperium. He has so many medals you can't fit them all on his chest. In fact, he has received so many promotions and so many commendations and so many awards that he often ends up being the most highly decorated and highest rank on the battlefield. He just doesn't realize it. The idea of Nork somehow getting command because maybe one officer goes down or leaves the battlefield is both hilarious and terrifying. But let's be honest with each other, his tabletop career was not so illustrious. In fact, until 9th edition, I don't think I saw him taken in an army or a list. He was just a bit of fun. But in 9th edition, that all changed. He was an absolute auto-include. He was the reason that the Unkillable Command Squad was called the Dread Nork. Sadly, those times are over, and Nork Dead Dog has fallen from a great height. And he didn't land on his head, so he's actually taken some damage from it as well. His stat line is essentially the same as a regular Ogryn Bodyguard, but it's a 4+ save. He used to have an extra wound. That's no longer the case. And unlike a regular Ogryn Bodyguard, he can't get that back with a slab shield because he is an epic hero, so his loadout is fixed. He is pretty decent at doing damage though. His Ripper gun is the same as a regular Ripper gun, but he does hit on a 3+. So with Take Aim, this guy would be hitting on a 2+. Not bad for a short range heavy bolter. And in melee, he has the same Ooge knife as a regular Ogryn Bodyguard, but he does hit on a 2+, which isn't such a big deal because a regular Ogryn Bodyguard would hit on a 2+ if you told that unit to fix bayonets. But the big difference is that for some reason, Nork can use his big knife so effectively, he can put so much weight behind it, that it does actually do devastating wounds. So there's a good chance that every time you strike with Nork, you're going to do a couple of mortals. That's not so bad, I guess. And hey, he actually has a 5+ feel no pain. Now again, that's not going to transfer onto the rest of the unit, but it means when the attending guardsmen all die, at least you're not completely superseded by the medipack. His 5+ feel no pain might actually come up here and there. He also has the same dubious Ogryn Bodyguard ability, giving a 4+ feel no pain to an officer. But his unique selling point is the Thunderous Headbutt, which is actually pretty good. Each time this model's unit is selected to fight, you can select one enemy unit within engagement range of this model and roll 1d6. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. And on a 6, the enemy unit suffers D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. If you get that 6, Nork could just do 5 mortal wounds. He could headbutt 5 termagants. He could headbutt 2.5 space marines. Now, that's only on a 6. More than likely, you're going to roll a 2. But hey, the idea of Nork just headbutting a space marine or something like that is still pretty hilarious. Okay, when you add all of these little bits together, Nork looks kind of good, right? Wrong. Because his main focus is in combat. And combat is always a secondary concern for Guard. Primarily, we are a shooting army. We'll do a bayonet charge if we have to, but by and large, it's to bully other light infantry rather than to get stuck into dedicated combat enemies. And so you could go entire games where Nork doesn't really get to show himself off, even with the best of intentions. And even if he did, I don't think he would be worth the 70-point price tag. 70. 7-0. It's almost double that of a regular Ogryn Bodyguard. Considering his loadout is fixed, he has no invulnerable save. That's just insane. That's almost as many points as Strachan. And Strachan brings a hell of a lot more to the table. At that price point, Nork is completely dead on arrival. He is a significant chunk of your list. An Ogun Bodyguard, you can throw in. If you've got 40 points over at the end of your list, not sure what to do, just throw in an Ogun Bodyguard. Nork is actually going to supplant other units in your army. You'll need to pick between that extra infantry squad and him, that extra sentinel, that extra armored sentinel, that extra artillery piece and him. And those units are going to have lots of tactical flexibility. Hell, some of them are going to respawn thanks to reinforcements. But he doesn't do any of that. And he is not worth taking something else out of your list to include him in it. It's sad because he's amazing, he's a character, he's so much fun. But in a competitive environment, I don't think there's any place for him. Of course, that is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think Ogre Bodyguards are worth it for their combat potential alone? And have you found some way to get our beloved Nork to work? Get it down in that comment section. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And if you found today's video particularly fun and interesting, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, you will not only be helping me create lots of content, but you'll also unlock a whole host of perks for yourself. The biggest one being access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community of over 2,000 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for tactics, we've got channels for army lists, for hobbying, painting, and of course a pretty spicy meme section as well. And before we wrap up today's video, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the latest channel members. So thank you to DWN, Drew S, Adonis, Jake Atkins, Azuma Kazuma, Kanaro Savard, Wolfgar, The Shape, Guy, Xperia 888, Robert McCoy, Andrew Narog, Reptilian Overlords, Fargrim Hornraven, Seth Bacon, Reese Blanket, Azulas, LJ5, Nico T, Cody Smith, Lucky Magpie, Jerome Allen, Kakper, Lord Zickness, Fred Savage, Pritch, Sambar LV, Dan, Mike Holloway, Austin Wu, Morgan Lamoureux, Jordan Freeman, Tiamat DeLord, Rock Pin, Displaced, Next to Radio, Robert Hanna, Sabo, Vermin, No Name, Sam Liviera, and Chalupa Cabra 13. Thank you guys for becoming channel members. Thank you for doing your part. I also want to do a shout out to the latest Patreons as well. So a massive thank you to Will Anderson, Merrick, Jonas Kering, Ravium, Rogue Flight, Jordan Freeman 94, Amy DeSweet, Aegis, and Jamin Bales. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal, heartfelt thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Alan Blunt III, Amy DeSweet, Bon Bon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you so much. Your generosity is amazing and I couldn't do this channel without you. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.